Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are really digging into someone quite remarkable, Wanda Sykes. I mean, she's consistently sharp, incredibly versatile, and frankly, just fearless.
Absolutely, a true force. Her career, it spans stand-up, acting, writing, producing, and activism, too. Deeply committed activism.
It really is amazing when you list it all out. So many hats, right? And she wears them all so well and often at the same time.
Exactly. I mean, she's an Emmy-winning writer. Right now, she's co-creator and executive producer of the Upshaws on Netflix. And you might remember, Entertainment Weekly called her one of the 25 funniest people in America way back in 2004.
Yeah, 2004. That's longevity right there. So our mission today, our deep dive goal, is sort of tracing that whole trajectory. Where did this incredibly uncompromising voice come from?
And how has she managed to keep that huge professional success going while also being so, well, politically potent? It's a balancing act.
Yeah, definitely. We've got sources covering, the big career milestones, her personal story, and honestly, some seriously surprising origin details. Things that just make you rethink the phrase unconventional background.
Let's maybe start with a recognition, because that really sets the stage for how comprehensive her approach to comedy has always been.
Good idea. That Emmy win you mentioned, it came pretty early, right? 1999?
Yeah, for outstanding writing for a variety, music, or comedy special. That was for her work on The Chris Rock Show.
And that win tells you something crucial. She was a writer, a powerhouse writer, long before most people knew her face,
That's the key point, absolutely.
Yeah.
She wasn't just like a comic reading lines someone else wrote. She was generating the material that really helped define late 90s political satire.
Right. But to really get the full picture, to appreciate how sophisticated she became as a writer and later a producer, we have to talk about the big surprise. The one detail that makes everyone pause.
The wait, what moment.
Exactly. Here's where it gets really interesting. Before the Emmys, before the writers' rooms, before she was even doing stand-up on, Def Comedy Jam, Wanda Sykes had this incredibly sensitive, very structured, high-level government job.
Go on.
She worked for 5 years, get this, as a contracting specialist at the National Security Agency, the NSA.
The NSA. It's just, the contrast is wild, isn't it?
Totally jarring. You go from, classified documents and government procurement,
bureaucracy,
rules,
structure,
to the world of stand-up comedy, which is, chaotic, often unpredictable, definitely not classified.
And it wasn't just a quick internship or something. 5 years. That's a serious commitment. She was deep in the logistics, vendor management, the really complex procurement stuff needed to keep a massive intelligence agency functioning.
So she had this highly organized, systematic brain trained in, government work.
Exactly. Which she then turned around and applied to, writing jokes and eventually running entire TV shows. It's quite the pivot.
I just love the image of her, doing a set at some DC open mic, maybe that Coors Light Super Talent Showcase they mentioned, on a Friday night.
Yeah.
And then Monday morning, she's back at her NSA desk, managing contracts. It's like two completely different lives colliding.
It really shows incredible discipline, doesn't it? Holding down that serious career while simultaneously finding her true voice, her comedic voice.
Which leads us perfectly into the foundation, her early life, those roots, which are also pretty surprising in their own way.
Right. So, Wanda Yvette Sykes, born March 7, 1964 in Portsmouth, Virginia.
Okay.
And her family life, very structured, as you might guess now. Her father, Harry Ellsworth Sykes, was a U.S. Army colonel, worked at the Pentagon.
Wow. Okay. High level.
And her mother, Mary Ann Louise, was a banker. So you got military discipline, financial structure. That kind of environment definitely instills a sense of order.
And the family moved to Maryland when she was young, 3rd grade, I think.
Yeah, attended Arundel High School in Gambrills. And that structure carried right through her education. She went to Hampton University.
Got a Bachelor of Science degree in marketing.
Exactly. Marketing. And she was in the Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority. Again, this isn't the typical path you imagine for a groundbreaking comedian. It sounds more like someone aiming for a corporate track or
government success, which is exactly where she ended up initially.
Precisely. That BS in marketing. It led straight to the NSA. And just to elaborate a bit on that role, contracting specialist.
Yeah, what does that really mean?
It's essentially being a logistics expert, but on a massive scale, handling large, often very sensitive procurement decisions, buying hardware, managing services from vendors, making sure everything complies with, endless regulations.
So skills like organization, negotiation, paying attention to tiny details.
Invaluable skills, especially if you later decide to become, say, an executive producer running a complex network television show.
That's a brilliant connection. I hadn't really thought about how those NSA skills might translate directly to Hollywood production.
It's not a stretch at all. Managing budgets, timelines, people, it's project management, just in a different field.
Okay, that NSA period makes a different kind of sense now. But speaking of deep foundations, we have to talk about that genealogy piece, the thing from the PBS show, Finding Your Roots.
Oh, absolutely. That was
Mhm.
that was stunning. Truly unique history, not just for her family, but for American history, period.
So they traced her ancestry way, way back, right, to the 17th century.
Yeah, specifically to a 1683 court case in Virginia. It involved her ancestor, a woman named Elizabeth Banks.
And Elizabeth Banks was. She was a free white woman, but also an indentured servant.
Correct. And the case came about because Elizabeth gave birth to a biracial child, a daughter named Mary Banks. The father was an enslaved man.
Okay, and this is where the legal stuff gets really crucial, especially for that time period. Hugely crucial. Because in colonial Virginia, the laws were solidifying around the idea that a child's status followed the mother. But it was still early days, and in this specific documented case.
Mary Banks, the daughter, inherited her mother's free status.
Exactly. Despite the father being enslaved, Mary was legally free because her mother was free. This set a vital legal precedent at that time.
So Wanda Sykes's family line, going back centuries,
Yes.
was rooted in documented freedom, even against the backdrop of slavery and, immense social and legal pressure.
Right. It's an unbroken line of freedom traced back to the late 1600s.
And the historian they quoted, Ira Berlin, he specializes in American slavery.
Mm-hmm. His quote was incredibly powerful. He said, Sykes's family history is, and I'm paraphrasing slightly, the only such case that I know of in which it is possible to trace a black family rooted in freedom from the late 17th century to the present.
The only one he knows of. That's staggering. It provides this incredible historical context, doesn't it? For the kind of freedom and, frankly, the uncompromising nature you see in her comedy today. Her willingness to speak truth to power, to be absolutely herself. Maybe it's not just a personality trait. Maybe it's ancestral.
Wow. That's a powerful thought. Okay, so her background is this mix of intense structure, the NSA years, and this deep, resilient history. How did she make the actual leap from contracting specialist to comedian
Well, it wasn't overnight. It was gradual. She started doing stand-up back in 1987.
while still at the NSA?
Right, at those talent showcases in D.C., like the Coors Light one. So she had about 5 years of practicing, doing gigs nights and weekends, basically honing her craft without the immediate pressure of needing comedy to pay the bills.
Smart way to do it, really. De-risked it a bit.
For sure. But then came the big decision, 1992. She leaves the NSA
Grits the stable government job.
and moves to New York City to pursue comedy full-time, which, as any comic will tell you, is a massive leap of faith, trading security for, well, chaos and uncertainty.
But she started getting noticed pretty quickly in New York.
Yeah, she got some important early TV spots. Russell Simmons' Def Comedy Jam was huge back then. It put her sharp delivery, her perspective, in front of a big, influential audience.
And then came the connection that really changed things.
Opening for Chris Rock at Caroline's Comedy Club. That was the first major break, the one that led directly to the next step.
Which was joining the writing team for the Chris Rock show on HBO in '97.
Exactly. And she wasn't just writing, she was on screen a lot too, doing sketches, playing different characters. That's critical development time, mastering joke structure in the writer's room, and mastering timing and delivery on stage all at once.
And that all led to the Emmy win in 1999. You have to remember what that show was like.
Oh yeah, the Chris Rock show was smart. It was political. It was doing cutting-edge cultural satire. She was right in the thick of a creative process that demanded rigorous thinking and, honestly, fearless commentary.
So that NSA-trained, organized mind probably meshed perfectly with the need to be provocative and sharp in the writer's room.
I think so. It's that synthesis again. Structure meets artistic rebellion.
Let's unpack the comedy style that really came out of that period. It's described in so many ways. Observational, surreal, insult comedy.
Black comedy, blue comedy, satire. It's a wide range.
But what does that list actually mean in practice? How does she use those different tools?
Well, I think it means she starts with the familiar observational stuff about relationships, daily life, but she always injects it with this political edge, this perspective rooted in her identity as a Black woman in America.
Right. So even when she's using, say, blue comedy, which can sometimes just be for shock value, she's usually doing it for a reason.
Often, yeah. To satirize hypocrisy or maybe societal hang-ups about sex or race. It pushes a point home, makes it sharper. It's not just jokes for joke's sake.
And the subjects she tackles are huge. American politics, obviously. African-American culture, pop culture, racism, sexism, relationships.
Hue and sexuality, traditions. Pretty much everything. Her stand-up specials are incredibly dense with this stuff. If you go back to her early 2000s material, she'd use these almost surreal setups to get at racism.
It's not just the obvious stuff, but the microaggressions, the everyday absurdities.
Exactly. She has this amazing gift for taking those interactions, the ones that are frustrating or confusing or just plain weird, and turning them into punchlines that are both hilarious and make you think, oh yeah, I get that.
And that versatility, moving from jokes about her kids one minute to, like, biting satire about Congress the next. That's why she stayed relevant for so long, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. She's always challenging the audience.
Yeah.
Making you laugh, sure, but also making you think.
Yeah.
It's never passive viewing with her specials.
And that mastery, that unique voice, it led very quickly to her becoming almost ubiquitous across TV, film, voice acting, which brings us to the next phase, her dominance on screen.
Yeah, she clearly understood that to really build a lasting career, she needed to move beyond just the stand-up stage. And those TV roles starting in the 2000s really cemented her place in the mainstream, often in quite different ways.
Let's talk Curb Your Enthusiasm. That was a long recurring role, 2001 to 2011, playing herself.
Which is such an interesting role on that show. Because in Larry David's universe of awkwardness and neurosis, Wanda was often the only one who saw right through his nonsense and just called him on it.
Totally. She was like the voice of reason, or maybe the voice of justified exasperation.
Exactly. She functioned almost as this unshakable moral compass. The one character who absolutely refused to play by Larry's ridiculous unwritten social rules. It's kind of a recurring theme for her actually being the one who speaks the truth, even when it's super uncomfortable.
And doing it in a largely improvised setting like Curb, that takes incredible comedic intelligence, just lightning fast wit.
For sure. Then she tried the more traditional sitcom route herself with Wanda at Large on Fox in 2003. That one was pretty short-lived, though.
Right. But her biggest mainstream sitcom success was probably The New Adventures of Old Christine.
Definitely. 2006 to 2010. Playing Barb, opposite Julia Louis-Dreyfus. She started recurring, then became a series regular.
That really established her as this reliable, funny presence in a more conventional network comedy format.
It did. But then, years later, you see her guest roles, and they really showcase her range, her ability to adapt to very specific comedic tones.
Like the Emmy nominations she got for Outstanding Guest Actress, for Blackish a couple of times.
Right, 2017 and 2018. And maybe even more impressively, playing Moms Mabley on The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel in 2020.
Playing Moms Mabley, that's portraying a comedy legend, a real pioneer. That requires more than just being funny. It requires research, embodying a historical figure.
Absolutely. It showed real dramatic and comedic depth. But going back to her current work, her commitment to being behind the camera as well as in front is clear.
You mean the Upshaws on Netflix, where she stars as Lucretia Turner?
Yes, but crucially, she's also listed as co-creator, writer, and executive producer.
Ah, there's that NSA-trained mind again.
Exactly. Executive producing a major comedy like that. It's managing budgets, schedules, people, creative vision. It demands that same logistical skill set. She has real control over the story and the tone, blending family comedy with that sharp social relevance she's known for.
And alongside all this TV work, her film career was taking off too, giving her huge visibility.
Yeah, big live-action roles. Monster-in-Law in 2005, that was a hit. My Super Ex-Girlfriend in 2006. Then those family comedies like Evan Almighty and License to Wed in 2007.
She was popping up everywhere for a while there.
And more recently, people definitely know her from the Bad Moms movies.
Oh yeah, Dr. Carl, the therapist.
Right. In both Bad Moms 2016 and A Bad Moms Christmas 2017. She just steals every scene she's in. Her ability to just drop into an ensemble cast and make her lines the funniest ones with that dry delivery. It's mastery is comedic timing.
Okay, but we absolutely cannot skip over her voice work. The sheer volume of it is incredible.
It really is. She's leveraged that distinctive voice into becoming, honestly, one of the most reliable and recognizable voice actors out there, especially in animation.
The list is long. Stella the skunk in Over the Hedge.
Yep, 2006. Bessie the Cow and Barnyard, both the movie and the TV series that followed.
And probably a biggest one for a lot of families. Granny in the Ice Age movies.
Yes, the grumpy, hilarious sloth. She was in 2 of the sequels, Continental Drift and Collision Course, those are massive global franchises. Her voice was a key part of their comedy.
It's amazing how her voice works for both kids' movies and, much edgier stuff, like Gladys Murphy on Crank Yankers.
Right, the puppet prank call show from the original run and the revival. And she even jumped into Star Wars recently, voicing Fee Genoa in The Bad Batch.
Wow. From Ice Age to Star Wars, that's incredible range.
It just shows her marketability. That voice carries this specific weight. It could be sarcastic, warm, observant, sometimes all at once.
Yeah.
It makes her perfect for pretty much any genre, from G-rated animation to R-rated satire.
Okay, so we've covered her incredible output, stand-up, writing, acting, producing, voice work. Now let's pivot a bit. Let's talk about the moments where Wanda Sykes, the public figure, the voice of opinion, really came into focus.
Ah, right. The times when her political views, her sense of integrity, put her right in the spotlight. Late-night hosting, controversies, those principled stands she's taken.
She had experience hosting, right? Like Comedy Central's Premium Blend, way back.
Yeah, she did. But her own big shot at late night was the Wanda Sykes Show on Fox, ran 2009 to 2010.
And that show had a specific format, didn't it? Aimed at political comedy.
Yeah, it was structured kind of like Bill Maher shows, a monologue, then a panel discussion about current events.
Yep.
It was clearly positioning her as a major voice in that space, trying to blend her stand-up wit with topical analysis.
And just before that show launched, she landed a really high-profile, high-pressure gig.
The White House Correspondents Association dinner, May 2009. Featured entertainer.
Which was a huge deal in itself. She was the first African-American woman to do it and the first openly LGBT person in that role.
Absolutely groundbreaking. Cedric the Entertainer was the first African-American man back in 2005, but she broke multiple barriers that night.
But the night is often remembered for, well, something else. A specific joke.
The Rush Limbaugh joke.
Yeah.
Yeah. This was pretty soon after President Obama had taken office, and Limbaugh had famously said he hoped Obama would fail.
And Sykes' response during her set was intense.
It was pure, uncut Wanda Sykes insult comedy delivered on the biggest political stage imaginable. She quipped something like, Rush Limbaugh said he hopes he fails, I hope his kidneys fail, how about that? And then added something about waterboarding.
Whoa. Yeah, that did not go over quietly.
No kidding. Massive public backlash, nonstop media coverage. It was incredibly controversial.
And it really highlighted her style, didn't it? Willing to use aggressive, even blue humor against a powerful political opponent right there in front of the president, the press corps, everyone.
It absolutely cemented her reputation. This is a comic who will push boundaries, who will risk alienating people to make a political point she believes in. No fear.
It was a definite professional risk. But as we've seen, she seems to prioritize her integrity over playing it safe. Which brings us to another major live TV moment, much more recently.
The 2022 Oscars, co-hosting with Regina Hall and Amy Schumer, and finding herself right in the middle of the Will Smith-Chris Rock slap incident.
Right, and given that Chris Rock was her friend, her former boss from the HBO show, her reaction was pretty strong and immediate.
Very strong. She publicly criticized the Academy for letting Will Smith stay in the room after the slap, enjoy the rest of the show, and then accept his award.
She used words like gross, right, saying it sent the wrong message.
Exactly. She said for the Academy to let him stay. I was like, how gross is this? This is just the wrong message. Her stance was clear. Assault happens, you get removed. End of story. It was about professional conduct and the signal it sent.
And that sense of professional integrity, standing up for what she thinks is right, wasn't just about reacting to live events. It affected her career choices directly, like her exit from the Roseanne revival.
Ah, yes. 2018, she was the head writer for that 10th season revival. A huge, high-profile, presumably well-paying job.
But then the star, Roseanne Barr, posted that infamous tweet, the racist one about Valerie Jarrett.
And Sykes' response was immediate. No waiting, no hesitation. She announced on Twitter, May 29, 2018, that she would not be returning to the show.
Before ABC even canceled it, that's key. She quit first.
Yes, she walked away from a massive gig, a powerful role, purely based on principle. Standing against speech she found reprehensible. It just confirmed, yet again, this pattern. Career comes second to her core values.
So from the White House dinner to the Oscars stage to the writer's room, it's a remarkably consistent ethical line. She doesn't seem to separate her job from her conscience.
Not at all. Which makes her one of the most reliably outspoken and, frankly, trustworthy political voices we have in entertainment.
Okay, let's transition out to her personal journey. Her coming out, her family, her health, which of course is all deeply tied into her activism as well.
Right. So she was married before, in the 90s. to a record producer named Dave Hall. But the major personal shift, the one that became public, happened later.
She married her wife, Alex Nibalski, who's French, in October 2008.
Yes. And then, just 1 month later, November 2008, she publicly came out as a lesbian.
And the timing and setting were significant, weren't they?
Very. She came out while speaking at a same-sex marriage rally in Las Vegas. It was specifically about California's Proposition 8, which aimed to ban same-sex marriage. So her public coming out was intrinsically linked to a political fight she cared deeply about.
Wow, so it wasn't just a personal announcement, it was an act of political activism itself.
Pretty much. And then, shortly after, April 2009, she and Alex welcomed fraternal twins. So the public declaration, the fight for marriage equality, and the creation of her family all happened very close together. It really underscores the urgency she must have felt.
But the journey to acceptance wasn't necessarily smooth, even within her own family.
No, and she's been open about that. She actually came out to her parents back in 2004 when she was 40. And initially, her parents, who came from that more conservative, structured background we talked about, they really struggled to accept her homosexuality.
To the point where they didn't attend her wedding.
Right, which caused a period of estrangement, which sounds incredibly painful. It's a reminder that even for successful, confident public figures, family acceptance can be a difficult process.
Have they reconciled since then?
Yes, the sources say they have, thankfully. But sharing that story highlights the personal cost that sometimes comes with living authentically.
Beyond her family life, she's also used her platform when it comes to her health in a really powerful way.
Yes, in 2011, she went on The Ellen DeGeneres Show and announced she'd been diagnosed with DCIS, ductal carcinoma in situ.
Which is described as a non-invasive stage 0 breast cancer.
Correct. And facing that diagnosis, she made another significant choice and chose to share it. She opted for a bilateral mastectomy to significantly lower her risk of developing invasive cancer in the future.
And by being so open about it.
She became this incredibly effective, though maybe accidental, advocate for women's health, encouraging proactive screening, discussing preventative options, using her own vulnerability to potentially help others.
Her more formal activism goes deep too, right? Especially around LGBTQ plus issues.
Oh, yeah. She was, as she said, devastated when Prop 8 passed in California. She threw herself into the fight for marriage equality, hosting events, emceeing fundraisers, really using her voice and visibility.
And her activism isn't limited to just that one issue.
Not at all. She's worked with PETA on promoting anti-chaining laws for dogs in her home state.
Yeah.
Animal welfare is clearly important to her.
And she supports the Ruth Ellis Center in Detroit.
Yes, which is a vital organization providing support and services for homeless or at-risk LGBT youth. That shows a commitment to the most vulnerable parts of the community.
And she uses her platform constantly, right? Like on Twitter.
Definitely. Promoting specific political actions, like urging Congress to pass voting rights legislation like the #ForThePeople Act, or commemorating civil rights icons like John Lewis. She understands her platform as a tool for social and political engagement.
She truly is an entertainer who walks the walk when it comes to advocacy.
And that combination of talent and commitment has brought her a lot of recognition over the years from different spheres. Which brings us neatly to the last part, awards and discography.
We mentioned the 1999 Emmy win for writing, but her stand-up itself has earned major awards too.
For sure. She won the American Comedy Award way back in 2001 for Funniest Female Stand-Up Comic. That's peer recognition early on.
And then there are awards recognizing her impact beyond just comedy.
Exactly. GLAD gave her the Stephen F. Kolzak Award in 2010. That award specifically honors LGBTQ plus media professionals who have made a significant difference in promoting acceptance.
And more recently, is she still getting that kind of recognition?
Absolutely. She's actually set to receive the Critics' Choice Association's Celebration of LGBTQ plus Cinema and Television Career Achievement Award in 2025. These aren't just trophies. They acknowledge decades of impact on visibility and culture.
And her stand-up is still getting nominated for major awards, right?
Yes. Just this year, 2024, she got a Golden Globe nomination for Best Performance in Stand-Up Comedy on Television. That was for her latest Netflix special, Wanda Sykes. I'm an entertainer. It proves she's still at the absolute top of her game, still relevant, still cutting edge.
You can really trace her evolution by looking at her specials over the years.
Definitely. It starts with Tongue Untied back in 2003, then those two big HBO specials, Sick and Tired in 2006, which was huge, and I'm a Be Me in 2009.
Then later came What Happened? Miss Sykes in 2016.
Yeah.
And Not Normal on Netflix in 2019. That's the one that got recent Emmy nods too.
Right, and don't forget the book. Yeah, I said it. From 2004, a collection of her humorous observations. It just reinforces again that she's fundamentally a writer, a generator of sharp content, not just a performer.
It's that combination, isn't it? The literary skill, the sharp writing.
Combined with that absolute fearlessness on stage,
Hmm.
she crafts the material with that disciplined mind, maybe honed back at the NSA,
Huh, maybe so.
and then delivers it with all the emotional weight and historical resonance of someone deeply committed to speaking their truth.
Okay, so let's try to wrap this all up. What's the final takeaway from this deep dive into Wanda Sykes? We've gone from the NSA
Right, a highly structured, bureaucratic government job.
all the way to comedy legend, Emmy-winning producer, voice acting star, and highly visible, deeply principled activist.
I think the synthesis is that Wanda Sykes had somehow mastered this incredible balancing act
Hmm.
between professional success, mainstream bankability.
I mean, she's Granny in Ice Age. You can't get much more mainstream than that. Or Dr. Carl in Bad Moms. Hollywood clearly trusts her to deliver commercially.
Exactly. But at the same time, she is absolutely relentless and uncompromising in her political commentary and her personal integrity.
The Limbaugh joke, the Oscars condemnation, walking away from Roseanne. These aren't small things. They define her as someone who will not back down, even if it might hurt her career.
It's a really delicate, high-wire act she's been walking for decades. And she proves that maybe you don't have to choose. You don't have to pick between having massive corporate success and being a genuine, fearless voice for change or dissent.
Maybe that discipline she learned early on, that structure, allows her to manage the complexity of wearing all those hats.
I think that's a huge part of it. She seems uniquely equipped to handle both the demands of the industry and the demands of her conscience.
So that leaves us with a final thought, something for you, the listener, to maybe chew on. In today's world, which feels so polarized, so divided, can entertainers maintain that kind of broad success across so many platforms while also being so consistently, unapologetically outspoken on political and social issues? Or is pulling off that constant, delicate balance? Is that itself Wanda Sykes' greatest, most challenging performance?
It's a fascinating question. She hasn't just shown it's possible. She's practically written the playbook on how to do it.
Her career really is an incredible case study, how those foundational skills, that structure, combined with an absolutely unwavering moral compass, can fuel decades of relevance and impact.
Truly remarkable.
That was the deep dive into the extraordinary career of Wanda Sykes. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.